Thai Real Estate Education on by Frank Sitar. Know your real estate market and why you are in it. When people think about real estate in a place like Thailand, they often think of holiday homes and condos. But Thailand real estate has become much more for many foreigners and expats. There is now a huge expat market in many parts of Thailand, and there is also a great level of interest from new markets like China. A shown interest from the Chinese middle-class market is great news for any real estate market. For most individuals, real estate investment is a big commitment, so it's best to educate yourself before you enter any market for the first time. To enter the market, you must do your research and even speak to the locals. The reason I said even instead of certainly is that many locals for different reasons tend to give bad advice to newcomers, and they can be very convincing after a few beers down at the go-go bar. Therefore it's best to only consider advice from people, locals and agents alike, that either own, invest in and/or have bought, sold real estate personally. If someone's property portfolio is non-existent or not very much, then maybe they are not the best people to advise you on your next property investment. Always make sure you seek and consider advice from real investors and those who bought as a mere necessity for accommodation. Pattaya real estate market is not just about holiday condos and villas anymore. It's now very diverse, and it's easy to enter if you have your priorities right and your head in the right place. What do I mean by having priorities? I mean one shouldn't buy just because something is affordable or someone in a short skirt insisted that it's the right size. There has to be a real proposed to service need or desire. Are you buying for pleasure? Is it a real estate investment, or is it both? Whatever the reason is, it needs to be identified during the early stages of buying. The questions you need to ask yourself are listed below. What your teacher should have taught you about property investment but probably didn't. Thailand real estate invest tips. Ask yourself, why are you buying? Is this a real estate investment decision or a personal buy? What is your future plan for this property? Are you going to live in it, rent it or sell it? How much do you know about the Thailand real estate market? Who are you taking your advice from? How do you intend to pay for the property? Do you know about all the different payments options available in the Thailand real estate market? Note, when you know what payment options are available and you have determined in what ways you are able to pay, then you can make your buying power work in your favor. For example, if you wish to pay cash for a property but you know that you have the option to go on a payment due to construction time, then by offering cash you will be entitled for a great discount. If you ask the right questions, you will get the right answers, so you must be prepared. By being informed, you can only make informed decisions, so keep the guesswork out and do your homework. Different real estate markets. Rental properties in Pattaya have always been a very popular investment method for many real estate investors in the market. With the right rental property, investors are reaping in returns on their property investment of around 7% to 10%. This ROI figure is great compared to markets like Australia, where the rental return is only about 4% with very high agent fees. The advantage the Australian real estate market, let's say in Melbourne, has compared to Pattaya is in its high capital growth. Capital growth is the main objective for most Australian property investors. The rental return is only a buffer against the mortgage repayments. The real estate market in Pattaya is very different. First of all, it's still very cheap compared to many other countries. For the same money that you could buy a beachfront condo in Pattaya, you couldn't buy an apartment less than 10 kilometers from a beach in Sydney, if that. So it's much easier to enter the market. The fact that it's cheap also means that it's a cash market. Nothing is tied up to any Thai financial institutions. That's why world financial crisis doesn't hit us as hard as it would hit other countries or major cities where 90% of the real estate titles would be held up at the bank against one or more loans from different mortgagees. The only way the global financial crisis affects the Thailand real estate market for foreigner investors is the shift in the values of different currencies. At the present time, the USD currency is strong, and so is the Chinese middle class buying power, so we are seeing a shift in the market. Whereas before we had a very strong Russian buyers market due to the strong Russian expat base in Thailand, in particular Pattaya, which was a direct result of their strong currency against the Thai baht. What happened to Pattaya's Russian market? Besides the bad luck of the Russian currency fall, the mistake many Russian buyers made was that they overcapitalized, hoping to make a quick profit in the once buzzing Pattaya real estate market. Especially the ones who came late got hit by a weak seller's market paired with their weakened currency. This was mainly the fault of their advising real estate agents promoting this quick sale technique at the wrong time in the market. Many agents are guilty of this, and these same agents are now making good money selling these properties for their disappointed investors at 20% to 40% below market value. It wasn't just the Russians who made this mistake, but at the time there were many Russians investing big with the hope of a quick resale profit. Good idea, but too late. The good news is now for today's cashed up and smart property investors or starters, as they can now buy many of these properties even cheaper than the late investors paid for them at launch price. So don't believe when someone tells you that it's a bad market. It's only a bad market if you are selling, but it's an awesome market if you are lucky enough to be in the position to buy. Investing in Thailand real estate investment terms. Real estate investors know that property investment turnaround time is around 10 years. In a hot and strong real estate market like we had in Pattaya between 2 to 5 years ago, many investors who got in early got rewarded and made quick profits on buying and selling. But never be fooled enough by the quick turnaround times to think that it will last forever. Only ones who profited were the investors who got in early at the right time. The ones that came late and overinvested to make up for their late arrival have their properties back on the market at the present time, all hoping to at least recover some of their hard-earned and eagerly spent money. I received an email from one of my property investors last month. He said, "Frank, if you were buying an investment property in Pattaya right now, what would you buy?" This question actually led me to write this article, as I know that I will enjoy answering it, and I am smiles. If you wish to make a successful property investment decision, you need to take many factors into consideration. Especially in Pattaya, where the market has shifted and slowed down recently compared to a few years back. But this always happens in every market. It's the cycle and will always be the same. This might sound silly, but when I look around to me and at all the real estate market in Pattaya, I see a very similar market to the one I grew up in. I grew up in Melbourne, Australia, so it does sound strange, but it's actually not. Melbourne is also a city by the sea, and it wasn't always this metropolitan and advanced. The city of Melbourne is now buzzing with a very profitable and solid real estate market. I was lucky to start my real estate career 20 years ago, just after the big market crash which saw prices decrease by never-before-seen figures, but I did see it crash. And after I started around 12 years later, I saw it crash again and recover again, but this is not the point. Areas like St Kilda, Elwood, Richmond, Moon Ponds, Fairfield, Preston, Coburg, Brunswick, Pascoe Vale, and Glenroy. These and many other areas were the ones nobody wanted to touch. Some available land and plenty of houses for sale, but if they had a choice, no sane investor at Thailand Real Estate Tipsy Time thought they should invest there. So why am I mentioning these neighborhoods if nobody wanted to live in or invest there? Because they are now some of the most expensive neighborhoods in Melbourne. Back then there was much more beachfront and seaside real estate land available. Many industrial zones also, with factories and workshops surrounding these suburbs. Also lots of industrial zones around the center of the city and CBD. When residential and commercial development land ran out, everyone realized that they cannot be so selective anymore if they wish to live near the center or in a seaside neighborhood. Then the council started changing zones from industrial to residential to feed the new trend that was suddenly starting to take shape around 1996. A new trend was born in Australia when everyone suddenly saw the real value of being central to the CBD and around the Bayside. All neighborhoods around the Bay and central CBD, good and bad neighborhoods, their prices skyrocketed and suddenly became the most expensive neighborhoods in Melbourne. All the other neighborhoods that were cheaper and more far away, if they were lucky enough to be located near any upcoming speedways and highways and or new train lines connected to the CBD, they were next to see a big profits. These areas saw a sudden increase of 30% to 40% a few years into the boom. That's a very big figure for properties that were worth only around 1/5 of the price of other neighborhoods. Big gains on such small manageable investments. A bit like Pattaya and the future of the real estate investment for those investors who have the time to wait. So how does the above story relate to my investor's question? If you are familiar with Pattaya, I think by now you understand the point of the above story. If you are new to this wonderful city and market, then let's go straight to my answer. The question was, Frank, if you were buying an investment property in Pattaya right now, what would you buy? Before I start to answer the question, I must say what I always say in the beginning to all my clients. Before you begin looking in the market for any type of real estate investment deals, first evaluate and understand why you want to invest. Ask yourself why you want to invest. What are you trying to fulfill via this investment decision? Have you given thought to what type of investor you are or inspire to be? Are you a rental investor in need of instant cash flow and steady income, or are you after a high capital gain, maybe both? What is your preferred investment turnaround time? Are you a short-term or a long-term investor? What is your best case scenario for this investment? What are you hoping to achieve? There is a different type of investment property for every type of answer to the above questions, and everybody's answers will be different. Real estate investment strategies should not be one size fits all, they must be tailored. Looking at it as a long-term investment, I have broken down my answer hoping to relate to as many investment types as possible, so here are my answers. My advice is, if you are buying a condo in Pattaya, always go with a quality project and developer. It's different with a house though, as you can renovate or rebuild to modernize, but with a condo try to be in a quality address. In many countries you can buy rundown apartments and do them up for a profit, but the Pattaya condo market is not there yet. There is still too much choice due to many new projects launching every few months. There are only two real factors that will help your property investment compete with newer properties over time. 1. Location. 2. Quality. If you go cheap, then your investment condo will suffer as everything will depreciate, apartment and building. Remember also not to go too cheap on maintenance fees, as that is an important factor that will protect your investment against physical and cosmetic depreciation, which will lead to your profit loss. Beachfront condos and houses have a great future ahead, and buyers of this type of real estate will see huge gains if they have the time and patience to wait around 7 to 10 years. A beachfront condo can cost as little as $120,000 and beachfront house can cost more than 10 times that. Whatever your budget, if you have the option to go beachfront, then you should for it. If you cannot afford to go absolute beachfront, then buy something as close to the sea line as possible. Invest your money in a quality real estate project as close as possible to the sea, and if it's a condo, then make sure it comes with a decent sea view. If the sea view is permanent, then even much better, as it will be a very expensive feature of your property. It will make your property more livable, rentable, sellable, in demand and fashionable, therefore more desired, profitable. Investing in land is a great way of earning good capital gain if you have the money to service and hold on to it. Even though foreigners cannot own land in their own names in Thailand, however, there are legal avenues which make it possible for foreigners to invest in land in the land of smiles. Remember that investing in land, or land banking as we call it, will not make you any instant or near future profit, but will make you a great capital gain if you are able to hold on to it for a good period of time. Owning a decent size land in and around Pattaya, minimum 1 rai equals 1,600 square m, can and will also open up many other possibilities if it's in the right location. Real estate in central Pattaya is also a good investment. In fact, it can be a good short-term and long-term investment. Any real estate in this location always carries a lot of rental demand regardless of the type of real estate it is. Whether a residential condo or a commercial shop or shop house, there are high present and future demand, as the center of the city often also means the center of business. What neighborhoods in Pattaya do I recommend? My personal favorite areas in Pattaya are Pratumnak Hill and Cozy Beach. I strongly see a great future in these two closely linked areas. Of course, the closer to the sea the better, and if a condo, then make sure you only buy quality. Any good project on Jomshan Beach Road? Sea views forever from almost any floor. Land around the new second road has seen such an increase in price compared to only 3 years ago, so if you were one of the lucky land buyers there 3 years ago and back, then you must be laughing all the way to the bank. Silver Lake area is a future upcoming area. This area is great for land banking as land prices are still very low, approximately $100,000 per 1 rai, compared to Pattaya of around $1 million per rai and rising. Silver Lake is only 20 minutes drive from central Pattaya, so there is not long to go when prices will be similar to current Pattaya prices. There is lots of money being thrown at Silver Lake via private investors on water parks and world-class tourist attractions. I see a lot of future potential in land around the Sukhumvit Road due to continual growth of the city in size and population. My favorite projects in Pattaya: Waterfront by Tulip Group, South Point by Kingdom Property, North Shore by Ryman Land, built by the current CEO of Kingdom Property, North Beach by Nova Group, Reflections by Major Development, Golden Tulip Residence and Centaur Avenue Residence both by Tulip Group, The Palm by Nova Group.